You're listening to In the Making with Mander. I am your host, Amanda Roy, also known as Mander, and we're going to talk about some art today. I've got a special guest with me today. We got Nick Biello. We are going to talk about a really special project that we're working on together called Before the Flood. Hi, Nick.
What's up, Amanda?
What's going on?
Not much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, Nick, what we're going to do, we're going to talk about Before the Flood, but I want people to know, who is Nick Biello? So tell me a little bit. I know who you are, but let's tell the
Do I know who
people.
I am? That's the
I
question.
think you do.
Okay. Well, I grew up in Connecticut. I spent some time in Hartford, and I've always been playing music, studying music. It's been my life's passion, and I play the saxophone, write music. There it is. I live in New York City, and I have a brand new album coming out called New America with my quintet project. And I'm really excited about it. And I'm really excited to talk to you about the collaborative art project that you're working on that coincides with one of the songs on my record.
Yeah, called Before the Flood.
That's right.
All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about
Cool.
how all of this happened, how it all came together, and then I want you to talk a little bit about what that song meant for you. But the way that this all began was you sent me, before it was like finished, you sent me a text and you said, do you want to hear a couple of songs that are going to be on my record? And the first one that you sent was Before the Flood. And I was driving home from the hairdresser, and it literally was the entire drive home from like the hairdresser back to my place. And I was sitting, it was incredible. Like, I loved it immediately. And then I'm waiting at the bottom of the garage while the garage door is going up, and I sent you a text and I said, I think I need to paint this. And you said, yes, please do. I think you said something like that. And that's kind of where it all started. But it's an incredible song. It's very different from other jazz tunes that I've heard. So tell us a little bit about what the track's about, what it is, what it sounds like, and what it meant for you to write it.
Sure, I'd love to. And thank you for the kind words about the music. Really glad that it hit you in that way. I think you and I have this commonality in the way that we create, and that we both have synesthesia, right? I don't want to misspeak.
Yep.
So we both really feel and see images and have this kind of like, I don't know, cross-pollination between how we perceive a specific modality and how we're able to transmute that modality into a completely different discipline. Yeah. And so it's understandable and easy for us to kind of work together in a creative project. And I felt, this is a big deal as an artist, I'm sure you know, when someone gets what you're trying to do, when they really are like, oh, I see this, that resonates with me. As a creative person, that's the biggest, I don't even say compliment, it's like beyond a validation. It's such a spiritually enriching feeling, and it's very humbling. So I'm so appreciative that you were not only like, you dug the record, you thought it sounded good. It goes way beyond that. You really saw the underlying meaning that I was putting forth into that music, which for an abstract project, anytime we're dealing with instrumental music, it's automatically abstract. So it's hard to communicate a specific story or sentiment in something that's abstract, but you're so creative and you're so insightful that you were able to really kind of hear the story and hear the sentimentality behind it. So Before the Flood is based on a sort of a story that I had, a mythical story since I was a kid. The movie it's loosely based on, and it's really funny, you can laugh, it's fine, is Conan the Barbarian. And that was like, as a kid, that was my favorite freaking movie. Because it was Arnold Schwarzenegger and swinging a huge sword and chopping people's heads off. But I really dug the fact that it was set in this Earth-like environment, but it was a time before history. So it was sort of like this antiquity where the boundaries between magical and the real were kind of blurred. And it got me thinking of this biblical period before the flood. Like, what was the world like before in the Bible, God washed everything clean with this huge flood. So that's kind of what the song is about. It's like a journey back in time, but you're going so far back that we are discovering things that may or may not have existed. And what happens then is the imagination takes over. And that's when it gets really fun.
Yeah, and it was like immediate imagination for me when I heard the song, right? Like I went on a journey, and that's what ends up coming out in the project, in the painting. And when I heard it, it was like I usually create paintings that are 8 inches by 8 inches or 9 inches by 12 inches, but it felt like something more. It felt like this epic thing. And as we were having conversations back and forth about like what it meant to you, and I watched Conan the Barbarian.
You did your homework.
Yeah, I did. And then so I had to think about how was I going to interpret it. And I thought, what if I did a big scroll of watercolor paper and turned it into a mixed media project with the natural inks that I make? And it has turned it into a 19 and a half foot wide by almost 4 foot high painting. It's like an installation. And then thinking about how I was going to paint it and what color palette I would use, what inks I would use, I thought about this ancient civilization that you had in your imagination, in your mind. And then I went back to ancient Mesopotamia. And then I had sent you a text and you were like, that's what I was thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it was like we were in sync with that. And as a historian, I just started researching like what kind of ink would they have used to create paintings? What kind of ink would they have used to document their civilization? What would they have used to dye their textiles? And I came up with 8 natural materials that I could make ink out of. And that is what ended up becoming Before the Flood in terms of my color palette. And then I looked up what are the cultural and spiritual symbols of all of these materials. So we have pine needles and the bark off of a maple tree. And I peeled the bark off of a maple tree in my mom's backyard. And so it's like this cool piece of my childhood is like in this. Coal. I have a chunk of coal that I hammered and ground up and totally like toxic, but it'll be fine. And then blackberries. I made iron gall ink, which is really exciting. Iron gall ink is something that like the earliest civilizations would have used to document and do all of their writing.
Oh, far out.
And that is made with oak galls. So like do you know what oak galls are? Do you want me to say what oak galls are?
I would love it if you would say what oak
galls? Oak galls. Yeah. Galls. So on an oak tree, when like a wasp lays an egg on an oak tree, it forms this like cocoon around it. And then that is the oak gall.
Wow.
And they fall off eventually. And so I took those and I ground them up. And when you mix it with iron, so like powdered iron, you mix because it's from oak, so it has a lot of tannins in it. So you mix the water that you soak the oak galls in with iron, and you get this indigo color. It's like you have this brown, and then you suddenly put a little bit of like iron and water into it, and suddenly it turns purple.
That's
it's
incredible.
So cool.
I mean, I saw it.
I know.
In the piece.
Yeah.
It really stands out.
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, because you got to see it. You got
That's
to
right.
see Before the Flood, and yeah, it's pretty big.
It's big.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really impressive.
Yeah, and I just took us through the journey as I painted it, and it's just layers of these inks and thinking about what each natural material means and what the song meant and what the different segments of the song are, right? Like the opening and how the melody comes, and then your solo is a big part of it, because you do a solo in the beginning, but then your second solo is like that's the epic piece of. I think it is. It's the it's the epic piece of the song, but it's also the epic piece of the painting. It really is. It really is. Yeah.
I mean, it takes so much trust to have someone who is just as creative as you, but does something completely different than what your skill set allows you to do, right? So you have someone who is an incredible painter and visual artist, and they're communicating to you that they want to take your vision for what you made, and it's going across like the ether into someone else's perception, and they're then filtering it through their mind, through their experiences and their, their style, all these variables, and it comes out. But to have that partnership, there has to be a sense of trust. There has to be a sense of willingness to allow your own vision to be expanded. And
Yeah.
that's really fun because you kind of unlock things in the music that I didn't even fully hear.
Stop.
No, for real. And the next time I perform that piece, it's going to be informed by what you have painted and what I saw you paint. Because it's like
Beautiful.
such a bigger scope when you see things rather than when you hear things, right? When you actually put it onto paper, and it's a physical reality that we're able to perceive with our vision. I think it takes the abstract and it makes it tangible. So it's really amazing for me. And like I said earlier, it's such an honor.
That's really nice. That's really nice. That's beautiful. I didn't think of it that way, and that it would influence how you interact with the music afterward.
Yeah, I think anytime there is like a collaborative project between people that have different artistic disciplines, doesn't matter what the syntax of the creative process,
Right.
whether I wrote the song first or you painted something first, there's still going to be something where the sentiment of the piece is going to undergo a transformation from one medium to the next medium. And then if you trust that person, or if you're not even trusting the person, but if you're willing to just trust the creative universe in general, and be as selfless as you possibly can, then you're going to hopefully enhance and grow your artistic vision.
And I could have come up with something that was like totally wild, and you'd be like, what is this? I guess, right? Like I could have probably created something that,
I think anything you would have created, because you're coming from the place of wanting to understand what the sentiment behind the music was, I think it would have been, I don't want to say valid, because that's not a really great word to describe art, but it would have been totally like within your own framework of your perception of the piece. And it would have informed me just as equally as what you actually did make, because I'm sure there was probably other options that you were considering, or was that the only thing that you saw? Did you see that right away?
so the way that I paint is intuitive. So I have no plan when I,
No drafts or anything like that?
no, I
Okay.
just know what inks I'm going to use and how much space I'm going to use. And then I play the music on a loop. So I have listened to Before the Flood a billion times, and I just play it over and over and over again, and just allow the ink. And as I'm painting it, it's the synesthesia, like it also helps to move the ink for me, right? Like it's a part of how I'm visualizing the music. And but for this, a lot of times when I'm working on a small piece of paper, I could pick up the paper and I can move it, and it just like kind of flows together. But with a 20-foot long piece of watercolor paper, you can't move it without crinkling it. And that was a challenge for me. And I'm trying to like put my arms underneath it to lift it up a little bit so that it can like roll down the page. And but I just learned different techniques that I could use to make the ink flow the way I wanted it to. But I didn't really have an idea of what it was going to be. It's just what came through me
As you
as
listen
I
to
was
the,
listening to the music
so in real time.
in real time.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
And there's 4 sections of it, and each section took between 1 to 2 hours for me to sit and paint it. And I did each section in one shot.
And you kind of, when you said you had to find different techniques to realize what you were trying to do, were you studying or researching these things, or were you coming up with them
It was,
on
yeah,
the
it was
spot?
just,
You're inventing things on the
yeah.
spot.
I
So
mean,
cool.
it's probably things that painters have been doing forever.
But for you,
for
it's
me,
a discovery.
yeah,
It doesn't matter if
yeah,
it's been done
yeah,
before. Whenever we come to something on our own, we're still discovering it for the very first time,
right.
which is really fun.
Yeah. And now I use that on even my smaller pieces, right? Like
Oh, nice.
it's been a way for this project hasn't just, been the biggest project I've worked on. It's this bigger project for me as an artist, right? It's
Sure.
helping me to discover new ways that I can paint. And now I'm embroidering onto it. And it's going to take a long time for me to do these little stitches with this little thread that I have, but I'm learning as I do that as well, how to embroider onto something that's this giant.
It's a major project for you.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be in your catalog when you look back at some point, one of your bigger pieces, I would imagine.
Yeah. I've never done an installation piece before, right?
Wow.
I've only framed work and had smaller pieces. Now this is an actual. I have no idea how I'm going to actually hang it. Like, how do I put this in the gallery? I don't know. I think I'm going to put dowels behind it and probably sew some pockets onto it, but I don't know. I just know that
I
I'm
have faith
making
in
it.
you.
Yeah.
You'll find a way.
I got to figure it out by July 1st.
Oh, you got plenty of time.
I know, right?
Where is it going to be? Where can people go to see it?
So this is going to debut at the Jewish Community Center, also known as the JCC. That's how most people around Connecticut know it, or at least in Greater Hartford. But it's in West Hartford, Connecticut, at the Jewish Community Center. And so that show will run from the beginning of July to the end of August. So that's a 2-month show. People can check it out. I'm also going to have other pieces.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's great.
Yeah, this is the culminating, yeah, it's really exciting. And it's also going to have pieces that are inspired by symphonies in it as well. So one half of the gallery is going to have Before the Flood, and the other half of the gallery will have a bunch of different pieces.
Roy Harris, Symphony 3.
Roy Harris, Symphony
Yeah.
3 is in there.
That's
It's actually hanging up
one of
there.
my
Nobody
favorite
can see that,
symphonies.
but I know you
Did
sent
I
it to
tell
me.
you about it?
Yeah.
Cool.
And then I've got Mahler Symphony number 5.
Oh, yeah.
Schumann Symphony number 3. Yeah.
I told you about that one too, right?
Yeah.
These are great American symphonies.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be really fun.
Cool.
So each of those, it's a different interpretation of.
Wow, I can't wait to see those.
I know. You're going to be at the reception.
I am.
July
yes.
24th.
I am. I am?
Yeah. Stop. You're going to be there.
I don't know what I'm doing from like day to day.
I know, but
no, I know.
Yeah, you're going to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you'll be performing.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. So Before the Flood will be in front of Before the Flood.
What an honor for me.
It's going to be really fun.
So great.
Yeah.
Well, the record comes out in late June.
So talk about.
I think it's June 20th.
Okay.
It comes out on the La Reserve Records label, and features Charlie Porter on trumpet, George Colligan on piano, Alex Tremblay on bass, and Peter Cronreif is playing drums, and yours truly on the saxophone. Really proud of the record. The first single is actually out on all streaming platforms, and it's entitled Bel Canto, Belcanto, in case your listeners want to give it a spin.
They should totally give it a spin. They should run it up, play it a bunch of times. Put it on repeat.
Run it up as many times as they're inspired to listen to it.
Yeah, it's really good though.
I'm proud of it.
And you have a couple more singles that are going to
come out? A couple more coming out. Unfortunately, Before the Flood won't be one of the singles, but I kind of wanted to reserve it for like the deep cut of the record. It's the longest track. We kind of allowed ourselves to tell the story over a longer span of time. It's kind of hard to play that piece, within a 5-minute, crunch.
Yeah, it's like a 12-minute recording.
A long one.
It's long.
Yeah, it's the epic on the record.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
But
I got to see it live twice.
You did,
which I was so excited about.
You saw it at Smalls.
I saw you at Smalls.
And where else did you see it?
2 sets at Smalls.
Oh, you saw it twice at Smalls.
Yeah. But it's different each time.
Was it different?
Yeah, of course it is.
It felt different both times. Yeah.
Yeah. That's how it is when you perform, though, right? Like, I mean, you're just in the moment. It's what's happening at that time.
It's sometimes hard to have a memory of it.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't have a memory of what happened during each of those sets. It's more like a feeling that you're left with. And sometimes the feeling isn't accurate. I don't know if you've experienced this painting, because painting is so permanent. You can go back to it and look at it again. But when you're playing music, you might feel great about it. Sometimes I'll be like, that was a great set. I thought I played at a high level. The band sounded great. And I'll listen back and I'll be like, okay, it was fine. It wasn't what I thought it was. And then there are nights when I don't feel really good about my playing at all, or the general presentation of the band. And then after I step aside for like a week or two and I go back to it, I'm really surprised by how much I like the performance. So it's really hard to gauge from night to night or even set to set what the music is, how it's being presented. I don't even like using terms like good or bad, but I've found that it's helped me to lean into being really present and just staying very somatically conscious and not thinking about what just happened, what's going to happen. Just being in the present moment, enjoying the moment, accepting the moment. And it seems like that's the way you paint. You're just
It's
like,
exactly
I
how I
have this
paint. Yeah.
huge piece of paper and I'm going to do this now. So let's go.
Yeah. I
Like,
play the music and I'm present with the music. I'm present with the paper, with the ink, and that's it. No expectations, no plan, just whatever happens, happens. No mistakes. It is what it is.
teach me how to do the no mistakes thing.
You just accept everything
Yeah.
as what it is.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Killer.
thanks, Nick.
Oh, we're done?
This is great. Yeah,
Oh,
we're
okay.
done.
I thought we were just getting warmed up here.
Well, I mean, we could keep going.
No, we're good.
All right, good. We're good.
It was such a pleasure chatting with you. Thanks for having me,
Yeah,
Amanda.
thank you. Thank you for being part of this. And I got to give a shout out to my crew. We got Tim Wiseman, producer. Thanks, Tim. Nivea Easterling on the video. Thanks for listening to In the Making with Mander. You can like us, follow us, do all those good things on all the streaming platforms, wherever you find your podcast. You can find Nick Biello
You can find me
wherever you stream your music.
Yeah, you can also
find
follow
him
me
on Instagram.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Follow me at Nick Biello Music. That's NickBiello Music.
Post a lot about music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much what we post about.
Yeah, pretty much. Awesome. All right. Thank you all for tuning in. Until next time.